Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Francis Pinola, and I'm a personal development and recovery coach based outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And today I want to talk a bit about my approach to personal development and change in general, and kind of a holistic look at our lives, ourselves, and kind of getting a sense of the different areas we might want to work on and how we might go about that. And one example or analogy that I use is a jigsaw puzzle. And that sometimes when we're tackling an area or a part of our lives, that we're putting together these different pieces of the puzzle and we're kind of popping them into place, one at a time. And we might not see how they all interact initially, but over time we'll see how one part affects the other. And by just working on one area at a time, overall, eventually we get to that whole thing. So I'll kind of go through some of the different areas, examples, and things like that, so you get a better sense of exactly what it is I'm talking about. Alrighty. So first up, we'll talk about what are some areas of personal development. And some of the things you might be working on might be your physical health, your emotional well-being, developing your social relationships, your social skills, that part of your life. Working on your spirituality, developing a spirituality. Maybe you're at the point where you're asking yourself some of these existential questions. What do I think? What do I believe? And that might be something you want to develop. Or lastly, and this list is not also exhaustive. There can be other areas that you might think of that you want to work on. And lastly might be mental, and that might be things like memory, which I'll go through some of these examples, for each one: physical, emotional, social, spiritual, and mental. But once again, these are all puzzle pieces for this larger puzzle of, your life, your beliefs, these things like that, how you carry yourself, physical, emotional, social, spiritual, mental, all adding up to this. So let's talk about some of the different parts of each. So first, let's talk about physical development. Maybe that might be getting a checkup. Maybe you haven't been to a doctor in several years. So before you want to even start trying to develop or improve your physical condition, let's get a sense of where you're at. So before you might want to go exercise, let's talk to a doctor to find out, what kind of shape am I in, where would be my starting point, and what will growth look like based on that. So maybe that's improving your strength, your endurance, cardiovascular endurance, your mobility, and this could be through things like exercise, sports, doctors, physical therapy. Maybe it's, dentists, whatever it is that, different physical things that you'd like to work on that maybe you've been putting off or you just haven't focused on. Maybe you work on these other areas of your life, but now it's time to work on that physical stuff. And for me, personally, in my development, in my recovery, I didn't really get super heavy into the physical stuff at first. Actually, I kind of did it a bit, differently, in that I worked on a lot of the mental, emotional, and social stuff before I got to physical. And then, spiritual was later on as well. Whereas somebody else might already have the spiritual component in place, maybe the social component in place. You worked on a lot of your emotional regulation, but now it's time to address your physical health. You're starting with physical first. That's why these are all different parts of the puzzle. And that's why I have these little puzzle pieces here we'll get a sense of how these all kind of click together. So next, for emotional development, let's look at maybe you're learning some coping skills. Maybe you're seeing a therapist or a counselor. Maybe you're reading books like self-help books. There's a lot of really great books out there, especially to use in addition to the counselor or therapist. Maybe they recommend a book, and now in your own time you're reading that book and learning these skills. A book like The Four Agreements, things like this could be really helpful to your just emotional regulation. Maybe you're watching videos like this. Some of my videos touch on emotional subjects as well, like how do we work on our emotional development, work on your relationship with yourself and your emotions. So that could be maybe, working on your things like self-acceptance, just how you view yourself, which can overall lead you to feel physically better, have that better emotional regulation. Maybe by, going through that, you develop better relationships with people. It all clicks together. So for your social development, maybe you're improving or building these relationships. Maybe you're looking on finding a partner. Maybe you've worked on some of these other areas, you've been getting in shape, working on your emotional stuff, talking to a counselor, and now you're ready to add somebody into your life. Maybe that's what you're working towards now. Working on your conversation skills. That can be a big part of any social skills, and even finding a partner, improving these relationships, learning how to ask open-ended questions, how to just have a full dialogue with people and just be interested in people. I think that's super helpful just in general. So if you truly like people and like getting to know people and you're truly curious and wanting to know about this person, I think it comes across genuine and people are more likely to share these things about themselves with you. But if you're kind of, when you're talking to them, you're just waiting for a turn to interject something about yourself, I think people can feel that as well. So, next, how about spiritual development? Maybe you're deepening your existing practices. So if you already have a faith, they have spirituality, have belief, maybe it's, starting to put that into practice more in your life. Maybe that might be going to some kind of a temple, church, meeting, what have you, or maybe just on your own, learning how to develop these practices. Or maybe discovering other concepts. For example, I got into Buddhist philosophies and concepts, and that wasn't for several years into development and recovery, but that actually helped a lot with the emotional regulation and the mindfulness and some of the mental development as well. That's how it all kind of clicks together. Maybe you're developing just your own personal beliefs and your own practices, combining things from different concepts or spiritualities. Lastly, mental development. So maybe we're working on developing your memory, your attention, your focus, your mindfulness, your executive function skills, which could be like task prioritization, getting yourself to do the things that you need to do when you need to do them. That could be an example of executive function. And for people like myself with like ADD, ADHD, developing these things like focus, mindfulness when I need to, the executive function skills, organization, self-discipline, for impulsivity, like all of these things, working on them can help in other areas of your life. Suppose I'm working on the physical part, maybe that mental mindfulness and self-discipline can help with diet and exercise or task prioritization to be like, oh, maybe I can go to the gym at this time, like learning organization, time management, can help in these other areas as well. So like, once again, it all kind of clicks together for the larger piece of the puzzle. And I'll keep reinforcing this concept over and over again. But the point is that we're clicking in one part in a place at a time, and that overall, over given enough time, we'll accomplish them all. So that's why there's so many different areas of personal development that you can work on, one after another or simultaneously. And every piece of the puzzle is important and affects the others. They all add up to create a whole or holistic approach. Where we start is up to us. And I first started hearing this word holistic. I worked for a hospital, like right out of high school for a bit, and they'd use the word holistic. And at first I thought they meant like holy. It was a Catholic hospital, and it's like started by nuns and stuff in this area, Holy Redeemer. So when I heard holistic, I didn't really understand what they meant, and then they explained it. They said that we believe we need to treat the whole person, that, while a person's in our care, we need to treat their physical body as well as how they feel emotionally, as well as how they feel spiritually, because all these things add up to how they feel, which can add up to how they, recover from whatever it is they're dealing with. And that really, for me felt, new and progressive at the time. And I really liked that they would look at a person through different lenses, because I think, like I said, these things all do add up to your overall quality of life and how you feel. So I've carried that with me, and now like you see that everywhere, holistic. But to understand really what that means, that all these different facets of yourself, the different layers of yourself, that they all interact with one another. So how they add up for how you feel is very important. So addressing these, issues one at a time. So let's, think about in what areas you want to develop in, maybe identify your goals, whether they're immediate goals, short-term goals, long-term goals. That can help prioritize what it is that you want to work on. So maybe you just went to the doctor and they let you know that there's some issues with your physical health. So right now you're really prioritizing that. You're like, I'll work on the spiritual stuff down the line. I'll work on some of the emotional stuff, but right now I have this physical issue I'm working on. So then the long-term goal, might be improve my physical health as well as improve emotional regulation to add up with stress, so that way by having less stress, my physical health will improve, less cortisol, this kind of good stuff, and they'll all work together. So by identifying your goals and identifying your needs, once again, maybe that's a physical need for something, identifying your strengths, like, okay, I'm really good at the social part of stuff. I have a good family, good support system, that's good. But here it turns out my physical health could jeopardize these things, So identify maybe my support system, getting the people around me. Maybe I know people who exercise who I can incorporate, into my routine, or be part of their routine. What are my strengths? What are my challenges? And once again, where are my supports? Who are the people that can help me with this? And that's kind of, we're already getting into developing a plan. So now we've identified an area that we want to work on. We maybe identified some of our needs, our challenges, what some of our strengths are, what some of our supports are. We're kind of putting together beginnings of a plan. So here we go. So first, who can help me with this? Where supports, teachers, coaches, who can help me? A doctor, physical therapist, who can help me with this? Let's see, next is the what, which we kind of identified, clarify what is it that we're trying to achieve? What is our goal? Suppose you had an issue with your knee and you're going to physical therapy. My goal is to rehabilitate my knee, maybe lose some weight to take some pressure off it, develop more better habits and routines in my diet and my approach to life, so that way I can be in better physical condition to not have this issue with my knee. Maybe it's talk to a doctor about knee replacement, yada, yada. What is the goal here? Where am I going to go do this stuff at? What's the location? It's just the who, what, where, why, and when. So basically doing basic, detective work, reporting work, however you want to think of it, to understand the who, what, why, where, and when. What are the facts, the basic facts of this thing? Once again, we're getting that outlines of a plan here. The why, because if we have the who, the what, and the where, but we're really not motivated, we're probably not going to stick with it. So motivation is super important. So once again, another piece of this puzzle, the who, what, where, why, and when puzzle. The motivation is going to help carry us through when we're experiencing challenges, when we're experiencing barriers, and also when experiencing success. It's going to help, make that reward deeper because you know what it is you're working towards. So when you see that, you're like, wow, I'm getting there, because it matters to you. If you won a contest or something that you didn't really care about, you're like, okay, congratulations to me. But if it's something you've been really working towards, you have motivation and reason towards, it feels great. And that's why, I've been developing this process because I've seen it in my own life, and I've seen the rewards of long-term goals and satisfaction. I used to be a very short-term oriented person, immediate satisfaction, but working on something over long-term, something that you keep working at and developing on, it's a phenomenally rewarding experience. So now I look for these different areas I can develop and work on, so that way, I get that reward, plus I enjoy it just as a process. Not only for myself, so I can share it, because I really believe in this, in developing this process, that other people can accomplish the things that they set their mind towards. So last, let's get to the when. So what is my time frame? How long is this going to take me? What is my goal? Suppose it's physical health. I want to be able to walk a mile or run a mile within, 90 days, 6 months. What is my time frame? How am I going to go about doing it? Okay, I'm going to start off walking maybe 20 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day, up my speed. I'm going to start running little tiny intervals, like 20 seconds at a time, and when I started running, my neighbor, he had been running for a little while before me, and I saw him out there running several miles, and I was astounded. And he had never been a real physically active guy, and he said he had just one day saw some people running and said to his wife jokingly, like, oh, I'm going to take up running. And she was like, really? He's like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's see. And he said at first he started out running maybe, running like 20 seconds at a time, 30 seconds at a time, then walking for a bit, catch his breath, then run another 20, 30 seconds, which I wouldn't recommend starting out running, depending on what kind of shape you're in. Talk to your doctor and stuff about that, but over time he got to the point where he can literally run minutes, then miles at a time, just by working on this and keeping on doing it. And now he's gotten out of the running as much, and now is into the weightlifting, so once again, your goals kind of change. You're like, okay, I've been enjoying the running. I want to see what I can do in this area, because once you've got bit by that bug of finding something that you can work on and develop and seeing the growth, it's really, really enjoyable. It makes you want to keep doing it. So just to review, we're kind of putting all these little pieces together, right? And each individual section, whether it's physical health, might have, your cardio health, your joints, your diet, doctors, different things like that, medications, for your mental health might have, or emotional health rather, might have your relationship with yourself, your coping skills and emotional regulation, your acceptance, your view of self, your values, all these different things. But we're putting together like step by step, a piece at a time. And so that way we can see the larger picture. And the good news is it's not rocket science. Now, if you identified your goal as I want to be on like the next space mission, there might be a lot of parts to this puzzle to be able to get there. Do we have the physical stuff, the mental stuff, the degrees, whatever it is that we need? I don't even know, to become an astronaut. Do we have all these things in place? I feel like I want to improve my physical health. I want to get better emotional regulation. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, they're simple things that we can start to put into place and see the trajectory go up. But at the same time, there's expectation that progress and growth is linear. That's just a straight up fashion. So if you're like, I want to be able to bench press 250 pounds, you'd think that it would just be like that. But sometimes there's these dips. I've been working on this myself. My goals get like 225, bench press. But like, you're going to see some, rises and falls. It's how the graph normally works. This change isn't just straight linear. Just like if you're working on, running or something, maybe you have a foot or ankle issue and then you have to back off it a bit and go back to walking, or maybe your goals change. Maybe you're not cutting, maybe you're kind of bulking, so you dial off the running. I'm just using a physical example because I'm kind of in that mode. I'm going to be doing some running today. But that's just one example of how growth isn't linear and straight up over time. And sometimes maybe it's the emotional stuff. Maybe you've been working on your emotional regulation and coping skills and it's been going great, and you experience some difficult thing, an issue at work, an issue in your life, and you feel like, you have a bad moment and you feel like you're back to square one, but you're not. You've made this progress, but you're going to see these ebbs and flows. That's just the reality. So I put expectation versus reality, to borrow from the meme, of how it usually goes. And here's something, like, for all of these different things, to me, really what it is choosing where I put my time, energy, and efforts. And to me, my time, energy, efforts day to day on like a 24-hour basis is really my habits. So at the end of the day, how I choose to get ready for the next day. I get everything set up. I have my lunch already together. It makes my mornings less stressful. It helps with organization. That's mental focus. That's self-discipline, all these different things, right? So that's just a habit I do at night. Suppose, your habit is I park further away from places to make me walk, to get my steps in. Maybe I'm taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Maybe my habits are when I go to the grocery store, I'm going to buy the thing that's a little healthier for me. Maybe my habits are when someone asks me, hey, how you doing? And I say, oh, good. You say, hey, how about you? How's your day? I know you always ask me, how I'm doing. This is something I train myself on because from Philly, when people ask you, hey, how you doing? Suppose you're like at a store, come up, the clerk's like, how you doing? You're like, oh, good. I never used to ask people how they were doing as well, and like I said, I was in, addiction and stuff for a lot of my life. I was not very cognizant of other people's feelings. This is literally stuff I've developed. Talk about emotional, and social stuff. Developed, how are you doing? How's your day going? How's your morning going? I had to literally train myself these habits. So that's just an example of emotional or social habit that I've trained. So by adjusting my different habits, I can make these things second nature. If I make them second nature, these different habits, my actions, that'll change the overall picture of my life. So your actions lead in, let's see, we'll take the ABC, so your actions are partly defined by, your values, your beliefs. And then when you encounter like a stimulus, like someone says, how you doing? My belief is, oh, I should, ask this person as well how they're doing. I'm more likely to ask them. Whereas my belief is that this person doesn't even care. This is just some perfunctory stuff. I'm saying, oh, great. How you doing? Yep. Instead, my belief is that, this person is here probably dealing with this many people. If my asking them how they're doing and being genuine about it improves their day even a little bit, like, oh, this guy actually cares, not just a millionth customer coming through, that's part of my values and my beliefs, is to help improve their day a bit. Because I know what it's like to work in service, not to, I'll get off that subject, but just as an example of something that I've worked on is being more cognizant and thoughtful of other people. So each area has its own little puzzle pieces. So the physical health has its own pieces to it, right? Your emotional health, your beliefs, values, different things, how you feel about yourself have all puzzle pieces to them as well. And so we add it all up. It's like this 1,000 piece, 1,000, jigsaw puzzle. But like when I'm working with clients and for myself, I'm just putting them into place. Like, how can I put more things for my physical health, my social health, emotional, mental, work on my memory. I work on my reaction time. I like gaming and stuff, and memory, reaction time, strategizing, tactics. To me, these things help develop my mental sharpness and acuity. So that way, maybe when I'm older, I'll be more mentally sharp because I've spent time working on these things. Maybe I'll be a little less forgetful because I try and be mindful and cognizant. Who knows? But I'll probably get a better result than if I don't. But the end result is a full, fulfilling life, and it's self-directed by your own personal goals and values. Because when you're determining what you want to work on these different areas, it's you that's determining it. Like, I don't think anybody else is coming along saying, you need to work on this, and this. Hopefully not, that you're figuring out what do I want to work on. When you're creating these goals, your motivations. So it becomes a lot easier to stick with these things because you're the one that's developing it all. And if you want to make a change of direction, you can because you're self-directed, so you can, maybe you're taking a year to work on this. Now the next year working on something else. I usually pick like a year to year basis by my birthdays instead of New Year's, to pick something to work on, but it's up to you. So something that I've learned is true happiness is experienced when your actions align with your goals and values. When you do things and accomplish things and work on things that align with how you view yourself and your goals and your values in life, it feels inherently good. Actions that do not align with our values cause guilt, shame, etc., letting other people down. If we view ourselves as an honest person and we do something dishonest, it doesn't feel good. If we want to be kind in the world and we do something unkind or thoughtless, it hurts my feelings. It doesn't feel good because it doesn't align with how we view ourselves and the world and how we want to carry ourselves in it. So when I can eliminate a lot of these things and work on these behaviors, it causes me to feel better. And then when I truly feel that my actions, and talk about spiritual beliefs, I try and follow like an eightfold like Buddhist path, so by my right action, my right speech, my right livelihood, all these different things add up to how I feel about myself and my place in the world, which causes me to feel at peace with myself. If the world ended today, I've had a good run. I feel good, and that took me a long time to be able to get there. But I feel good in how my actions align with, my goals, my values, and thoughts about the universe. But you are not your past behaviors. Like I said, I didn't used to work on any of this stuff. For the vast majority of my life, I wasn't interested in a lot of this different stuff. And, through challenges and recognizing my own needs and my own, strengths as well as weaknesses and different things, like I'm developing these, which help me further come into alignment with my goals and my values. So I feel good. I can look at myself in the mirror in the eye and like who I am, and that wasn't always the case. And I had to learn this, that, okay, here's how I wanted to be in the world, and here's how I was actually carrying myself, and how can I make these adjustments and do things in order to be more in alignment with that, and that to feel that true happiness, that peace that I wanted inside. So today's a new day, be the you that you want to be. Be the kind of partner, the kind of friend, the kind of employee that you want to be. If you want to be the kind of employee that literally shows up a bit early, works hard and isn't cutting out early all the time, be that person. Maybe you actually realize I overwork and I actually need to dial it back a little bit and kind of not take things so seriously because it's stressing me out. Then be that kind of person. And you can literally develop this process. There are steps that you can take. If I'm the person that worries too much, I can develop a sense of acceptance, let go of some of my control. If I'm the person that typically, procrastinates, doesn't do the things I'm asked to, I can develop that self-discipline. Ask myself the why. Help make these things important to me so I want to do them. And then lastly, I couldn't find a jigsaw puzzle thing for this, so I use, looks like almost like beads or like kind of reminded me of a scrowl piece or something, but thank you. Anybody who's watching these videos or trying to prove, I think that this kind of stuff can help make the world a better place. As silly and simple as it sounds, I think that if everybody's working on these different areas that they want to work on and develop themselves and just fuller, more expressive human beings and come into their alignment with their goals and values, I think that we'll all feel better. And by feeling better, maybe we treat each other better as well. That's just a hope. Maybe I'm, aiming too high, but like this is one of the reasons I make these videos is I know that everybody can help feel that sense of peace, that sense of happiness, these different things that I've gotten through that, as well as seeing that it's really not rocket science, that you can choose something that you want to work on, set a goal for yourself and accomplish it. And every time I hit like a new milestone in these different areas, it just reinforces the same concept to me. But as always, thank you. Have a great day. I hope this video was helpful, informative. If you want personal coaching, check out my website, premiumpersonaldevelopment.com, or I put the link as well in the description. Email me, comment in the video. I'll be happy to reach out back to you. All right, thank you. Have a great day.